Yes, guys, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another live stream and welcome to another depressing chat about another abysmal Chelsea performance. That one was probably more depressing than the rising energy bills in the UK at the moment. It was absolutely abysmal. I mean, first 10 minutes, we looked okay. A few good moments, a couple of decent bits of link up with the front three, which looks exciting. And then as soon as we went a goal down, that was it. It was game over. Our heads dropped and we offered absolutely nothing. So easy to pass through midfield. Cannot play any passes in the final third whatsoever. It is literally passes going out of play from like a simple 2-3 yard pass. No one's picking anyone out. No one's shooting. No one's doing anything. We spent over £100 million on defence and we look more susceptible to conceding goals than we ever have done. Up front, we don't look like scoring any goals whatsoever. And then midfield, we just get constantly run through and no one's pressing any players in the midfield and just letting Zagreb have the freedom of the pitch and do whatever they want. It was utterly abysmal today. And the Tuchel himself, I love him, but he's got to take some responsibility and he's got a lot of questions to answer. You know, he's pissed with the performance. Fine, we all are. Don't just sit in your seat for the whole 90 minutes. You know, he used to get up on the touchline. He used to be like pragmatic. He used to get out there, passionate, shouting, coaching. Guy's just sitting there like he doesn't give a fuck on the sidelines at the moment, not coaching the team from the side. And look, I get it. It's not his fault that the players can't play simple passes. But what is his fault? It's not trying to get up there and make a difference. And I'm not saying, I'm not saying it would have made a difference and he would have won, but at least show like you're trying to do something different. You know, this was abysmal again, and we're in big trouble. And it's a continued theme of this season where you follow up a win with an utter dog shit performance. I don't know what's going on here. Everything's going wrong. No one's playing well. No one knows what they're doing. No one's got any ideas at all. Oli, where do we go from here, mate? I mean, I think before the game today, you're thinking, well, look, we're not playing well, but we should be able to get something out of this game. You know, it's a Champions League. It's a different focus. Start of a competition that we've done pretty well with under Thomas Tuchel, and yet even worse than we could have ever imagined.
It's not good, is it? Is it, Charlie? It's not been very impressive. Yeah, like you say, you think, we've been struggling a lot in the league. You think we'll have a good chance of going out and playing against someone like Zagreb, who, champions of Croatia. You can't underestimate them, but you think, right, we'll breeze past these quite easily. Champions League group stage, it's one of those where the best of the best, win a game 4-0, 5-0, something like that. And then we go 1-0 down, and I think, okay, well, we've gone 1-0 down, but we've been playing really well up to this point. Still could see us scoring 3, maybe 4. This is sort of 25 minutes in. And then after that, we just fell off a cliff, performance-wise. It seemed like, full credit to Zagreb, by the way, because they had a game plan. They had, and they executed it to perfection, which was hit us on the counter, smash and grab a goal, and then defend low in a couple low blocks, 9 behind the ball, and then and just defend from there. And they did really, really well. So it's worth saying that they managed the game really, really well, and they had a good game plan, and it worked for them. But Chelsea played into their game plan. Maybe we didn't give them the respect they deserved, especially in the first 20 minutes. Yes, we were playing some nice football, but we were quite open at the back and susceptible to the counter. It's always easy to say that sort of thing in hindsight, but you just got the impression after Chelsea, after Zagreb scored, you thought Chelsea could get back into this quite easily. We'd only overturned West Ham from a deficit a few days ago, and then, like I said, our performance just absolutely fell off a cliff. And after that, after we sort of started to struggle, we all thought, this isn't going to go well. This isn't going the way we think it's going to go, and ultimately we lost the game. Not a good start to the Champions League. Not a good way to forget about form at home. It's a bit depressing, Charlie. It really is.
Well, mate, depressing is putting it lightly. And this is not just for me. You can take one-off bad games. Yes, it's disappointing, but this isn't just a one-off. This is a repeated pattern that's not just played us at the start of this season, but the back end of last season as well. And ever really since the whole sanctions business was announced, we've kind of been under a cloud and it hasn't looked like shifting at all. and you think I'm thinking, right, the transfer window's closed. We're gonna see a little bit of an improvement now because Tuchel can fully concentrate on coaching the team, doesn't have to worry about any of that other stuff, and yet we don't look any better at all. West Ham, for an hour, we were abysmal. Luckily, there was a bit of a reaction in the last half an hour, and we managed to scrape through. Yet tonight, there was no reaction, nothing. We had one shot from Reece James that hit the post, and that was it. I can't remember.
Ziyech had one from really far away that didn't really trouble their keeper.
That was a 30-yarder that just went straight to the keeper. And we didn't create anything. I mean, Tuchel.
We looked really. We never by the sort of time there was about 10 minutes left in the game. We could have played for 6 hours and not scored.
Mate, we could still be playing now, and there'd be no goals.
We could be playing until the Champions League final and still not have scored a goal. And it makes you wonder. And I think ultimately it comes down to the question that we're going to be asking is actually what's the problem at Chelsea at the moment? What's actually going on behind the scenes? Because clearly this isn't normal. We've seen these players under this manager playing very well, a year and a half ago. You only have to go as far back as, I don't know, last year in the Champions League, you could say Juve or Real Madrid or any of those games where we were playing absolutely out of our skin in this system with this manager, with these players. What's changed? What's happened? And I think that's what a lot of people are very frustrated with at the moment as Chelsea fans, because, we've tried changing formation, new owners, new players, new this, new that, different formation, all of it. We've tried it all. And nothing seems to be getting us out of this rut where we can't seem to attack. And now we can't seem to defend either. Everyone's just left scratching their heads going, well, what's happened? What has actually gone on behind the scenes? My personal theory is maybe there's some kind of rift in the squad and it's causing unrest and it's causing the players to suffer. Originally I was thinking, and I've said this a lot this evening because we were watching the game, I said maybe the players aren't really there playing for Tuchel anymore. Maybe they've had enough. Maybe they've down tools. Maybe they're just not willing to put in what the manager wants them to put in. And that's a really worrying thing to start thinking about. But I started to think about that and question that actually. And I went, well, we've got a lot of new players in, and so they kind of all have turned on him. And we got people who are model professionals like Reece James, Mason Mount, Thiago Silva, who would never really switch on the manager like that because it's just not in their nature. So I was thinking, okay, well, so then what is the issue? Is there an issue within the squad between the players themselves? And I think we've sort of identified a little bit of an issue that we were talking about before we started talking here, is that actually there might be a couple players who aren't getting along with the rest of the squad. And we think Ziyech might be an issue. We might think Pulisic might be an issue. Specifically, we're saying Ziyech was an issue because towards the end of the game, Ziyech wanted to take a free kick. He hit the wall directly. Then another free kick came a couple minutes later. Ziyech wanted to take it again. Reece James said, "Can I take it? Your last one went into the wall," or something like that. Ziyech essentially shoved him off and took it anyway. Hit straight into the wall.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And then at the end of the game, all the players went down the tunnel. And the manager,
I think Reece James was the only one actually that went over and clapped.
Well, exactly. So you've really got an issue there where maybe morale is low, confidence is low. There's something going on within the squad. There might be a rift. There might be some dynamic where some of the players just aren't getting on, and it's affecting the dressing room now. And it's not a good look. And whatever happens, Tuchel needs to sort it out quickly. Because, at the end of the day, unfortunately, I love Thomas Tuchel. I would run through a brick wall for Thomas Tuchel. I would run through a million brick walls for Thomas Tuchel. But the buck stops with him. If there are players who don't get on in the squad, get them together, sort it out. If they're, if it's the tactics that aren't working, get a whiteboard, sort it out. It's not rocket science. And and at the end of the day, if you want to be an elite manager, an elite club like Chelsea, you're going to have to go through this. Now, I know we're in a new era now. We've got new owners, and so the hire and fire hopefully is leaving us behind. But it does still give us the question that the fans will be expecting more from Tuchel, and if he doesn't start to deliver soon, there's going to be real call for him to be sacked, and that's going to be the biggest test of the owners so far.
Well, it will be. I mean, to be honest, look, I see people in the chat saying he should get rid of him. People need to understand that. For me, things would have to get a lot worse because At the end of the day, we cannot keep going through a hiring and firing process, which is not sustainable. And it's how we've ended up in this mess, having to do so much business this summer and having to do a lot more business in further windows, is because of the short-termism of sacking managers every couple of years, ending up with a disjointed squad of totally different managers, players, and then having to try and sort it all out. You're either backing the manager or you're not. The people that are calling for Tuchel are the same ones that are saying back him in the summer. Like, you can't spend 250 odd million pounds and then 6 games into the season decide that you don't want the manager anymore. Like, that is an utter nonsense. It's completely brain dead to be thinking in that way.
It
like
makes no sense whatsoever. It's like trying to build a house, Charlie, and you get the architect and you get the foreman and you get everything. You buy all the materials and everything. You put 3 bricks down and then sack everybody. What's the plan after that? Even if in a fictional world where these people get what they want and Tuchel does get sacked, and we now have to bring in someone.
Well, who goes in?
Who goes in the first place? People say, "Oh yeah, Zidane." Zidane's not going to want to come to a mess like Chelsea at the moment with everything that's going on. People are saying Potter. Potter needed time to be backed as well.
Yeah.
Sure, he plays pretty football, but he's lost a lot of games as well. Pochettino, what has he won?
French league, but that's it. Isn't it?
In terms of actual pedigree and actual tactical acumen, we all know Tuchel's the best option. We all know he's the best we're going to get, right? And so, ultimately, in a way, we're sort of stuck with him, whether we like it or not, especially because the owners have backed him and they've said the hire and fire is going to stop in the summer. That's what they said. So that ultimately they want to stop this sort of, manager circus that Chelsea has been for the last 20 years. It's brought us a lot of success, and I don't bash Abramovich or the previous regime for it, because, like I say, it brought us a lot of success, but it's not what the new regime want to do.
No.
And so whether we like it or not, Tuchel is going to be sticking around. I'm personally happy about that. I think he probably does need more time. There are still new signings that need to gel in. We're only 6 games into the season. I do honestly think things will come good, but it doesn't look good at the moment, and that's the problem. It is at the end of the game, if you've got all the players except Reece James going off down the tunnel, the manager's going as well, and everyone's just miserable, and nobody's come over to clap the fans. It's not good. It doesn't show that there's harmony in the squad. It doesn't show that same sort of resilience and togetherness like we had during the sanctions in April, where the squad properly came together and properly rallied under Tuchel, and we won a lot of games. Until it was the international break and everyone left and came back, and then we struggled again. But it's not going well, and that's the thing that worries me at the moment is it doesn't look good. It's not like we're playing really well and getting unlucky. It's at the moment it's the opposite. Is actually we're playing really poorly, and against West Ham, a few days ago we got lucky and we got a win. Can you imagine if we hadn't won that game?
Yeah.
It would have been an absolute mess.
I think mate, I think people have massively underestimated how big this rebuild job actually is at Chelsea.
100%.
At the moment.
100%.
I think even myself included, I've been guilty of that. Like,
same here.
I've said many times, mate, that the Champions League win is going to do more harm in the long run than it will do good, because it warped people's perceptions of how good these players are and how good this squad actually is. The squad is not good, and yet that Champions League win has papered over cracks and made people think that Chelsea are actually half decent. The squad's pretty good. The squad wasn't good at all. Too many players not good enough, too many players on massive contracts, and too many areas of the pitch not addressed, far too unbalanced. And yet people believed that because of the Champions League, this was a decent squad and it didn't need much work doing to it. The reality of the situation is that this squad needs so much doing to it, and we need a lot of new players, which we have bought some in, but we clearly need more as well. And the big problem for me is, like, it's evident today. Again, defensive midfield player. We were desperate for a defensive midfield player. We were lining up with a Mount and Kovacic 2-man pivot.
But we had one. We had Zakaria on the bench.
We did, but he didn't even come on. He put Jorginho on when we were chasing the game,
which is a really strange thing to do. And that's one thing we're saying, about people can question Tuchel because his substitutes today were very strange. Taking Kovacic off, ostensibly a creative, pacey, line-breaking midfielder for someone who ostensibly is there to control the game in a possession-based game when you're chasing the game is not really what you're looking for. Personally, I think Tuchel did get it wrong today. and you can't argue really against that. In my view, he definitely got it wrong today. And there's been a few times recently where we've been saying he's getting it wrong, and people are starting to question, about his tactics and his system and things like that. And it's worth questioning, because at the end of the day, like you say, it does come down to Tuchel as well. At the end of the day, the buck does stop with him. And, if his system is too stubborn, if he's too stubborn and doesn't want to change his system, then the players are going to get sick of it, and it looks like some of them already have.
Yeah, I mean, mate, I think we're too easy to play against. It's as simple as that. On in a position where, in a team where your two biggest attacking outlets are your wing backs, if you mark them out the game or limit what they do, we offer nothing. We offer nothing at the best of times. But if we're very much at the point now, like we were at times last season, where literally we are relying on Reece James. It's pass Reece James the ball and hope he creates something. If Reece James doesn't play well, then basically we're not doing anything.
Well, Zagreb lined up with a back five, didn't they? So the aim was clearly to match up the wing backs. Have their defensive wing backs match up with our offensive wing backs and sort of mark them out the game, like you said. And it seemed to really work. Hit us on the counter, push us through midfield, hope for a mistake, and that's what they got. Like we said, their game plan was excellent. But the problem is at the moment we're too easy to beat. Like you said, I said it after the Leeds game. I said that every single team, not only in the league but in the Champions League, everywhere, will have now a blueprint on how to beat us. And I've been proven right at Southampton. I've been proven right today.
It's too easy. We're so easy to play through in midfield. We've got nothing going forwards, and even defensively now, we're so susceptible to conceding goals. I can't see us keeping a clean sheet. I can't see when the next one's coming. And today, 3 away games lost in a row. That's the first time that's happened under Thomas Tuchel, and it's the first time that's happened since December 2020 under Frank Lampard, when we were going through that dreadful period just before he was sacked. I mean, last season we were good away from home. The away form wasn't the issue; it was the home form, and now we can't buy any wins away from home. It's really odd. And you talk about the system, and people say, people are saying in the chat, that he doesn't know anything other than a 3-4-3. People calling for the switch to the back four. We've tried back four this season, and we
played back four at times today.
And we tried it last season at opportunities as well. It's not making any difference. For me, the signings that we've made, particularly defensively, very much indicate that the back five is here to stay for at least for this season and probably next season as well, until we bring in a different profile of players in midfield. We haven't signed Fofana, we haven't signed Koulibaly, we haven't signed Cucurella, etc. to play a four. We just haven't. And maybe when Thiago Silva doesn't play, we could have gone with a 4 today potentially. But when Silva plays, we're predominantly going to go with a 5. Next season, maybe we might see something different. We might see a 4 if we bring in Edson Alvarez, who we might go back in for in January. If we bring him in, if we get a Declan Rice or something like that, then and we move on a Kante and a Jorginho or one of or whatever, then there's potential for us to switch to a 4. But at the moment, we've tried a 4. We don't create any chances. We let loads of goals in. We play a 5. We don't create any chances. We let goals in. It doesn't seem to matter at the moment what system we're playing. And yes, I would agree that perhaps this 3-4-3 is quite predictable at the moment. We're very easy to play against, but it's all very well saying switch to a 4. But we're still
the alternative is no better.
The alternative's not any better either. We went to a 4 in the second half. We were awful. Ollie, how do you think we sort this out? Because at the moment, it doesn't the issues don't look like getting any better at all. And it doesn't matter what we seem to do, what personnel it seems to be. It's the same outcome, and it's dreadful.
Well, let's remember, okay, right? So tensions are running high, right? Ostensibly, that's a game we shouldn't have lost. We did. It's disappointing, and some of us are surprised, some of us aren't. Everyone's going to have their person or their thing to blame. There are good things about that performance, and there are good things about Chelsea right now. The likes of the fact that we're only 6 games into the season. We've got lots of new players in that still do need to gel. Tuchel is a good manager. It's not like we've got someone completely uninspiring coaching the team. We've got actually a world-class manager who's won the Champions League with Chelsea. He's worth sticking around. We've got a brand new owner who's willing to put money into the club at all levels, right? Which is ostensibly a good thing. We've got the first 20 minutes today were good as well. So it's not all doom and gloom. It's just at the moment, the problem is it's a results-based business. And if you lose a game like this, people have to ask questions, especially when you're a team like Chelsea.
Yeah,
but there there are good things about Chelsea at the moment, and there's things to look forward to because once these players do what do you remember after Lampard came in after our transfer ban, right? And we had all that money to spend. We brought in 5 or 6 players,
Werner,
or whatever,
Havertz, all the
6
like,
players,
yeah.
or whatever. And what were people saying after sort of 6 months? And things weren't looking brilliant, and we were struggling a lot. And people said, well, we've brought in a lot of new first team players, and we're going to need time to gel. Tuchel's also signed 6 first team players this season, and more for the youth team, and
it's over half the outfield side that is potentially changing.
Exactly. So if you're looking at it that way, actually, well, why is it only after 6 games or whatever it is that is no longer a valid thing for Tuchel when it was valid for Lampard?
It's fair points. It's fair points. Like you've got to keep the same energy. Like
and the squad needs more time to gel. Because ultimately, if we're just going to stick to this hire and fire stupid circus that we've been working with under Abramovich,
it's too short term. It's short termism,
but eventually you're crashing and burning. And what this is the equivalent of having Bowley come in and having and backing Tuchel is the equivalent of the last 20 years of Abramovich has been like driving as fast as you can towards the edge of a cliff, and Bowley is finally putting the brakes on inches from the cliff, right? Whether we stop, whether we go off the cliff or not, we don't know yet. But hopefully we'll stop before it, and we'll actually be able to build something with this squad. But it's not going to happen if we don't back Tuchel. That's the thing.
No, it's not. I mean, look, for me, Tuchel, it might not work out, but you've got to give him more than 6 games. You've got to give him this season.
Exactly.
You've got to give it this season.
He's only just got his players in. Do you know what I mean? Like last season, who did he get? Lukaku. Okay, and then everything that happened, and Saul, and everything that happened with Lukaku, right? So you could call it a freebie, call it a veto, call it whatever you want, call it not good enough.
This is his first proper window.
His first proper window. He's brought in 6 players, right? All who are going to be his players. They are his players. You have to give them time. You've got the likes of Havertz and Mount and things like that, and playing and saying they're not good enough, and we know this. At the moment, there are players in the squad who've been playing in seasons prior who absolutely are not playing at the level that they should be right this second. But they're also going to be getting used to the new signings and the new chemistry with the new players. There's a reason this is the way it is, but in the same way. Like I said, it's a results-based business, and I fully expect Tuchel to have to do something about this because if not, he will get sacked. If it gets worse, he will get sacked.
If it doesn't improve in the build-up, like next month, October is packed. Like there's so many games in there in the run-up to the World Cup. Now the fixtures are coming thick and fast. If we don't improve visibly by the time sort of the World Cup comes around, then there's going to be real pressure on him. Massive pressure. Like
that's what I'm saying. He needs to sort it out by then. There's almost now. It's like there's a time window now for Tuchel to actually turn this around. And another good thing is, I think a lot of Chelsea fans expect him to do just that because we've got half of a brand new squad. And like you say, this squad isn't the equivalent. It's like imagine the squad is a person, and a lot of people were expecting them to go into the doctors just to get like a facelift or whatever, and we've actually had open heart surgery, had 6 transplants, and your spleen removed or whatever. There's been a lot that's changed, and so you don't just expect a recovery from that in a week or 2. It's going to take time.
Where do you stand on this kind of? Oh, it's the players, it's the man. We've had it with Manchester United in the past as well. Gary Neville and whatnot on Sky Sports saying, "Oh, is it the manager? Is it the players? Or we keep blaming the player? Like who is? Like, do you think it's? I think it's equal responsibility in terms of it's definitely the players to an occasion because they're the ones that are going out on the pitch, of course. But it's also the manager because the manager's coaching them on a training pitch day in day out, and then the manager's setting that team out and sending them out there on a Saturday on a midweek.
That's why
there's equal responsibility. I don't think there's like, oh, it's all Tuchel's fault or it's all the players' fault.
It's a mix.
It's equal responsibility.
And
players have got to do more, but the manager's got to do more.
And the thing is not every game exists in a vacuum, unfortunately. So, like some games are more the players' fault. Some games are more Tuchel's fault. There's games that you can confirmly say, and we've said it in the past, Tuchel got it wrong. You could argue it today with his substitutions. You can say Tuchel got it wrong. He got it all wrong. And then there are other games where Tuchel, as we know, Tuchel has coached a 4-0, 5-0 win, and we've drawn 1-1. Because we can't finish our dinner.
Of course.
So that's the thing. You can't really look at it in a vacuum. You have to look at it all together. And the reality is, sometimes it's the player's fault, sometimes it's the manager's fault, sometimes it's both, and sometimes it's neither. So I think a lot of people at the moment, especially after a game like this, where tensions are running high, emotions are running high, people want something to blame, and people want someone to blame because it's easy, right? And people want to go, it's that person's fault, or it's that person's fault, and that person needs to get out the squad, or this guy needs to leave because he's causing unrest, or whatever. And we're all guilty of it. But ultimately, there's a lot of issues at Chelsea at the moment, but they're issues that actually are steadily improving. It's just that we're not there yet. And I think maybe that's the false dichotomy, is where we actually are as a squad and where people expect us to be. We're over here. We're expected to be over here by a lot of the fans, and we're just not there yet.
Yeah,
we will be there. We're just not there yet.
It goes back to what I was saying about expectations. I think at Chelsea, we've been so spoilt in the Abramovich era with constantly winning trophies. I think now we've got to realise that we're in a massive rebuild. And you know what? We may not win any trophies this season. We might not win any trophies next season. We might have to take some short-term pain for some long-term game here. We may well have to. And I think as fans, all I've ever known is Chelsea winning trophies. But I think there's going to have to be an adjustment of the expectations. And look, that's not a cop-out for these performances. This is, make it perfectly clear, this is totally unacceptable and not good enough. And it's not been good enough at all this season. You could argue back end of last season, not good enough. We've played well. I'd probably say we played well maybe once this season against Spurs. All right, we dug in and showed character against Leicester. We dug in and found something in the last half hour against West Ham. But realistically, this season we've played well once or twice. Everything else has been...
You could even argue we only really played well against Spurs.
Yeah. I think we showed character
and then the last half an hour
Leicester.
against half an hour against West Ham, played all right again.
Yeah, of course. But I think this is a bigger issue. And I think, Tuchel needs to find the answers. Saying after the game tonight, everything's wrong. That's concerning. That's massively
and that's the
concerning.
Thing as well.
As a manager, when you come out after a game, you're asked what the problem is, and you say everything. The
other thing he said he was surprised by the result. And
I wasn't surprised at all tonight.
That's the thing. You've got probably a lot of people in the squad. Myself, we were texting this morning before the game saying, actually, we wouldn't be surprised if if it was a 1-1 or a 1-0 loss or something like that. And look at that, it happened. If Tuchel's saying he's surprised at that, that is concerning because you could argue that's just him trying to defend his players. He doesn't want to cause more unrest by saying, "Yeah, I knew this would happen." Obviously he's not going to say that. But, if he truly was surprised by that performance, that is a concern.
Yeah, it's a huge concern. I mean, mate, back to obviously kind of the game itself tonight. What are your thoughts on the lineup when it came out? I was quite excited. We've got an Aubameyang debut much sooner than we thought. The Aubameyang, Sterling, Havertz front line. You're thinking that's quite promising.
Yeah, do you know what? Good. And before we went to shit and fell off a cliff. They were playing really well. I thought Havertz in particular was having a very good game, finding himself in a lot of dangerous positions. Aubameyang was doing what Aubameyang does and getting in the box. That was refreshing. And there were ultimately, on another day, I think we don't lose this game. It's just how it goes. And that's not an excuse, but maybe Aubameyang finds the net, or that offside goal that Chilwell got to Aubameyang. Maybe he's just a yard back and he still gets there. There's a lot of things in football that can change, and so you can never really point to one thing and say that's the problem, he's the problem, that's the problem. But at the moment, it feels a lot like Chelsea are going backwards.
That's the big issue. But
and that's what's concerning because And not only that is it feels like we're going backwards, and it's hard to identify why.
But there's that, and you also can't see when it's going to get any better. There doesn't seem to be any obvious light at the end of the tunnel with this one. It's not like, we've lost tonight, but we can see that actually things are getting a little bit better in certain parts of the pitch. They're not. Things are
You could argue that. Like
a
that
little
first
bit.
20 minutes, the
Yeah,
front three looked really good, but
they did. But then they
the
did
issue was
nothing.
the mentality, like, and again, we hate. I hate this thing talking about the mentality about the squad because we don't know actually the mentality of the squad at all. But people say the mentality of the squad is poor, and it may well be poor. Yeah, and you may well be poor. Like we found a little bit of spine against West Ham and came back, but like I was. You would have expected the same from Chelsea today, and that's not what we got. So ultimately, it's also on the manager, and it's on the players, and it's on the owner, and it's on all the fans, and it's on your nan and everyone else and your dog, because nobody knows what the actual problem is, who the problem is. So it's going to be, it's going to be like this for a little while. Things are going to get better, but you could argue that they're also going to get worse before they get better, which is very concerning. One thing I do have to point out, one player in particular, I really don't like doing this, but what has happened to Mason Mount?
Mate, I've got no idea.
His form has fallen off of a cliff. He was really, really poor today. This season he has been uncharacteristically not himself. I don't know if
every single game he's been terrible.
He's been very, very poor. He was deservedly dropped against West Ham, and we did win. But at the same time, I don't know. It isn't happening for him. You get a lot of the sense that around a lot of the players at the club that some of them aren't trying at all, and some of them are trying too hard.
I think Gallagher tries too hard, but then you get
Gallagher tries too hard. Ziyech probably doesn't try enough. Do you know what I mean?
He doesn't want to be there.
There needs to be that middle ground, and maybe that to a certain degree is causing some of the unrest in the squad. If Tuchel picks players that some of the other players are thinking, well, what's he getting in over me for? And maybe you're gonna. It's always all right when you win.
Then I guess
you can always justify whatever the manager does when you're winning.
You got the alternative. But when you're not, I say, look, I think Mount should be dropped. He shouldn't be playing. But then the alternative you've got is two players that don't even want to be at the football club and aren't bothered in Ziyech and Pulisic. So you're almost forced into a situation where, look, Pulisic started against West Ham at the weekend. I think deservedly so. Didn't do a lot, fair enough. But he's then straight back out the team again. There's no.
There's not a lot of consistency, and I think that's leading to a lot of the players not having a lot of confidence. There were a lot of times today. I think I must have seen everyone on the timeline on Twitter and stuff saying, "For God's sake, shoot!" Because there were so many times where we had the opportunity to shoot, and people weren't because they were worried about losing the ball, making a mistake, something like that. So it gives an indication that the confidence is really low. And that's why And that's why I think that's part of the reason why we probably are where we are, is because there's a lot of pressure. The new owners have come in and they probably expect certain performances. The manager's going to be expecting performances, and we're not playing well. So confidence is going to be low. And the problem is bad confidence leads to bad confidence. You kind of have to hope eventually something goes your way. And against West Ham, it did go our way. But it wasn't a convincing win, and I think that's what Chelsea really need now. In my view, the next thing we need as a squad is a convincing win where we dominate the game and we win 3-0, 4-0, and there's absolutely no problems, because that gives Tuchel the building blocks to be able to go, okay, well that worked. I can rely on X, Y, Z player. Let's move on from there.
I think one of the biggest issues as well for me at the moment is that we're not playing as a team. We're just playing as a bunch of individuals. That really feels like that. That's more concerning than the fact, you accept as a fan, your team is going to lose football matches, but there's kind of losing football match where you think, we've actually tried hard. We've played well here. We were unlucky, or the other team were just better than us. But then there's losing where you're just second best at everything, and that's a bit harder to take. And all the games that we've lost this season, we've been convincingly, quite overwhelmingly, second best in every single department in all those games we've lost. You look at Leeds, Southampton, and Dinamo Zagreb. In every single one of those games, three inferior sides, but three sides that all wanted it more than us and all played as a team. So the common traits that are occurring here, and these are not good traits to have in a side, is that we're easy to play against. We're a soft touch. We don't play as a team, and other teams want it more than us.
And there's an easy blueprint to beat us.
Yeah, just mark the win backs out the game, press us high up the pitch, and
hope for a mistake, and
hope for a mistake. But those are big concerns in a football team. That if you're easy to beat, you've got a soft core, you're letting in loads of goals, you don't look like scoring any goals, and you're playing as a bunch of individuals.
Yeah, it does. It is concerning,
That's not
losing
good.
someone like Rudiger from the squad. It feels like we've lost a bit of fight in the team. It really does. You've got players like Kovacic and Havertz who, will want a scrap. But, and maybe I'm a bit old-fashioned for saying this, but, I think a player like Rudiger is a brilliant player to have because
We
nobody
need
wants to play
someone like a
against him.
Costa.
Someone like Acosta to really rile up the opponents, drag the game by the scruff of the neck to the win. Rudiger did that for us. From centre back, Rudiger did that for us. Acosta did that for us in the past. We've got some players who could do that, but no one who will do it. Do you know what I mean? I would say the closest example of something like that we've got at the moment is someone like Broja. Someone who's big and menacing and enforcing and ready to stick the ball in the back of the net. But he's not getting much of a chance at the moment either. He did come on, he did okay, but he didn't really. He barely was there really. And same with a lot of the attackers in the second half. It's just, I don't know. The problem is as well, is like we're saying, this is a results-based business, Charlie. You know that as best as I do. If we draw this game, if we play absolutely diabolically like we did and we nick a last-minute draw,
still feel like a loss, but
it still feel like a loss, but it's not as bad. And people are saying, well, we only drew, with teams got some fight in it, et cetera, et cetera. And and that's the thing is the results like the Champions League win do paper over the cracks that are appearing, and it is concerning. But having said all that, and having saying, where do we go from here? What issues have we got? All of that. I still think there are reasons to be hopeful. I still believe in Thomas Tuchel as a manager.
Oh, I do
least of all, because we've spent 250 million on his players. We're not sacking him now would be brain dead stupid. So. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's always reason to be actually hopeful as a Chelsea fan. We're going to be playing better games this season than we've seen against Zagreb today, against Southampton, against Leeds. There will be better games, But like you say, we're in a long process of a rebuild, and it's open heart surgery and lung transplant and all the rest of it that the squad actually needed. That was over bloated, overpaid, overconfident. And now they're really struggling because, well, maybe then don't seem to be as good as they think they are, and so that can really damage the confidence of a team. So
I just think we're so low on confidence at the moment, and I think the players not really sure what to do. Tuchel doesn't really know what to do. We tried different systems, we tried different personnel. None of it really seems to be working, and this is going to take time to fix. And I think this is the first time in a lot of fans' lifetime of supporting Chelsea where genuinely, like we are not as good as we used to be. We're not as good as we think we are. We're going to have to go through a process of losing football matches, of having more bad days like today, and eventually, like in the long run, we'll get through it. But as you say, you don't spend 250 odd million pounds on players for a manager and then abandon that project 6 games into the season. I mean, what part? No part of that makes sense. So you've got to give it more time. The same people that are saying, "Oh, Tuchel needs to go," are saying, "Oh, Lampard needs more time." You can't you've got to bring the same energy to the same circumstances. You can't be like Lampard needs time, but Tuchel doesn't. It's a complete double standard. But there are worrying signs, and as you say, today, the Mount Kovacic pivot was a really strange one for me. I know Ruben's played a lot of football recently, but the fact that Jorginho didn't start on the weekend. You think why did
even
he not
Zakaria could have come in for half the game?
Could have come in, yeah, exactly. Zakaria could have come in. Ruben Loftus-Cheek could have come on. We could have used Conor Gallagher. Like, why are we starting Mason Mount and Kovacic in a double pivot? I saw that on the team sheet.
I don't really mind. I don't mind Mount in the pivot because he's got the energy. I can see the logic.
Defensive capabilities are non-existent.
No, but essentially, he's doing what Kante does without the tackling. It was essentially a lot of running around.
He just runs around,
which is what you need. But what I'm concerned with is usually you don't pair someone like Kante with Kovacic. You pair someone like Jorginho with Kovacic. Sorry, you don't pair someone like Kante with Jorginho. You don't play someone like Kante with Kovacic. We've seen it in the past. Kante and Kovacic have not played very well together. You play Kante alongside Jorginho. Well, if you're going to start with either of them, if you're going to start either of them, and Mount has to be in the pivot, you play Jorginho because he's the one who's going to control the game, and Mount's the one who's going to provide the energy. But the issue is when you've got, and I think to a certain degree, Tuchel might have seen that, and that's why Kovacic came off and Jorginho came on. But the problem was at that point we were already chasing the game.
Yeah,
So
you
you
don't want to
need
be bringing Jorginho on when you're chasing the game.
No, you need energy
You
and
would have thought
pace.
he could have put someone on, like, you would have thought maybe put on a Ruben or a Gallagher to have a bit more energy, a bit more attacking impetus in the midfield.
And that's what we're saying, and to a certain degree, nothing in football is static, right?
No.
And it's important to remember that, actually, managers, their systems do get found out. 3 at the back against
I think
with
we've
Conte.
found out. Yeah.
Conte got found out. When he played, Sarri's system got found out quite simply. There are a lot of teams that get found out, and it is on the manager to either change the system or change something up about the system and make it work. So to a certain degree, you can't say it's not on Tuchel, because it is.
It is on Tuchel to find different ideas. Yeah,
to find a solution to the issues. The problem is if the players aren't playing for him, then that's a bigger problem. Like if the players aren't willing to hear out, oh, you've got to play out of position, you've got to play wing back or whatever, to make this work, they're not going to be that pleased. They're not really going to put their full effort in, and you're going to see discontent amongst the squad. And unfortunately, I think that's kind of what we're seeing. Having said all that, Tuchel's not going anywhere. Like as we've already said, there's no chance he's going to get sacked.
No,
there's no chance.
It would be a case.
It would have to get a lot worse for.
It would have to be like us in danger of missing out on a top 4. I think
I think it has to be more than that. I think as if we're 10th in the league at Christmas. Then maybe you have to ask the question, because like you say, £250 million for for this man's players.
Yeah,
Tuchel has had more. Yeah. He has had more power over transfers than any other manager in the squad, any other manager in our history, more or less. In the Premier League era at least. So why would you then take out? Why it's just absolutely nonsensical to even think about sacking him, because at this point you've already committed. The cost is sunk and the cost is too high. You have to continue.
Yeah, no, you do. But I also think that there's going to be a point where this will change. But at the end of the day, you can look at it 2 ways. We're playing terribly at the moment, but then and it's not good enough. But then you can flip it and you can say we started so badly, yet we're still only 5 points off the top of the Premier League, having played so badly at the start of the season. So we're still only 5 points,
5th or something.
We're still 5 points off the top of the Premier League, right? And then we look. People seem to have short memories. Tuchel's made 6 out of 7 finals available to him at Chelsea since he's been here.
That one,
we've lost 3 of them.
That one that wasn't a final was a semi-final. Just so,
So
I'm sorry. I've just got to say it. Emil has just said in the chat is by luck. It's not by luck. You don't get to 7 finals through sheer luck, mate. It doesn't happen.
1 or 2 you can get
1 or 2
luck.
maybe. Even Southgate got to a final by luck. Even Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got to finals by luck. Even won a trophy, I think, in when he was an interim manager. You could say that was lucky. You don't get to 7 finals, win the Champions League and all that. It doesn't happen by luck. It just doesn't.
You have to have a bit of luck along the way, of course. You always do. But it's done because you're a good team and you're coached well. And people are entitled to their opinions. But for the people that are kind of Tuchel out and turning on the manager, I'd love to know what they think the alternative is and who's going to come in and do any better, and why we should restart a project after backing a manager with £200 million worth of players to then just rip that up and bring someone else in who might not even want those players and just start again, and then have the same conversation as we're having now in a couple of years' time. We need to change the manager again. This is nonsense. This short-termism has got to stop.
And at the very least, wait until we've got a director of football in. Wait until we've got a top director of football in who actually is going to make a direction for the club to go. We're going to play in this style. We want this kind of manager. If the manager doesn't fit, it doesn't match that or doesn't want to mix with that, fair enough. Then you sack the manager, you get in someone new, and you do the squad, and you do the squad new. But you don't do it before we've got a director of football, because there's every chance we'll just sack him again anyway. Like you say, it's just this short-termism, this absolute merry-go-round. Listen, there is a lot of pressure on Chelsea this season because we've spent more than anyone. We've got new owners in.
But we also had to spend that. Yeah,
we also had to spend that. But there's a lot of reasons for actually asking the fans to be patient with both Tuchel and the new regime, because it's not going to be like it was with Abramovich. It just isn't. The short-term hire and fire is no longer going to happen. Whether any of you in the chat, whether you like it or not, Tuchel's going to stay.
We are moving away from that model.
We're moving away from that. So buckle up and get ready, because I think things are going to get better, but they might get worse.
Things will get better for sure. We're not just going to keep playing shit every single week. But this is nonsense. Of course, there's always luck in sport. There was luck in sport at the weekend against West Ham. We got a decision that we probably shouldn't have got. That was luck. You get luck. Spurs got luck when Cucurella's hair pull wasn't given.
Crystal Palace versus Newcastle at the weekend. They got a lucky decision.
I mean, you can like Lampard, but this is a nonsense. Lampard took us to a final. Yeah, he did, but he also lost the FA Cup final like Thomas Tuchel has done. Yes, he made top four, which was a great achievement, but let's not pretend we were playing decent football under Lampard and people were happy with the direction we were going, because they weren't. It's simple as that.
Listen, that's the thing, is there's a lot of emotions running high. After a game like this, it's a very sort of volatile atmosphere for Chelsea fans. So what we've got to remember as a group, as Chelsea fans, come on, do it with me, guys, is we've got to take a big breath in, big breath out, and remember, Chelsea's not going anywhere. Thomas Tuchel's not going anywhere, and Chelsea will succeed again. Whether that's blind faith, whether you believe it, whether or not, if you just say it, you'll feel better. Okay?
Yeah.
Because I genuinely believe it. Chelsea are on the up. We don't make all these great big signings, even if not this season, next season, when everyone's a year older, a year more cohesive with the squad, a bit more gelled in, that's the point of a long-term project. That's why we're bringing in players like Fofana, and we've got Cole at the back, and, players who, we brought Cassidy and Chukwuemeka in and things like that. We've got players who actually in 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years time are still going to be very good. Right?
Yeah,
that's the point of this rebuild. This is not a 1-year plan. This is not a 2-year plan. This is a 10, 20-year plan that Bowley
the owners have got to keep it for 10 years minimum, the club.
Exactly. It's at minimum a 10-year plan. So you've got to be looking at it long term, and that's not what people like to do on the internet in terms of sport, because every game, you can treat every game as a vacuum and say, and a results-based business, as we said. But, we're 6 games into a 10-year process.
Yeah, you can look at it like that for sure. But I mean, look, there's obvious issues, but at the moment for me, things are terrible. But it's not so terrible that I'm thinking we need to get rid of the manager. And it's also I'm also not at that point, because there's no credible or viable alternatives, in my opinion, that will do any better. Yes, you might.
I don't think there's anyone
you might get that manager bounce for a few games, but realistically, in the long term, I don't think there's any manager that could have handled what Thomas Tuchel has handled since he's been at Chelsea. I don't think there could be.
Even in principle, right? Even in principle, like I was saying, until you've got a director of football, there's no point anyway. There is absolutely no point changing anything about the club at the moment until we have a director of football in. Because until that point, the club, as per the name of the job, does not have a director, so it does not have a set direction. Right? Just to understand that. At the moment, the club, we can say we're going upwards and we're making progress, but until we have a director, we don't have direction into how we want to play, how we want to, set the team up, the kind of managers we want, the kind of players we're looking for, our recruitment strategy. All of that is sorted by a director of football. And the good thing is everything that we've seen so far is that Bowley & Co. are looking into the future with that, and not just grabbing the first person that they can think of. They want someone like Michael Edwards, who is an elite sporting director, right? He said, I don't want to do it this year. I've got, I want to take a break from football, and then, you've offered me great money, maybe in the future. And so Bowley and Tuchel and etc. have said, okay, let's back off. Let's not make the wrong decision quickly. Let's make the right decision long term. And that's really, really important. And that's why we've got likes of Bowley filling in that interim sporting director role right now, is because in the future, we're going to have a very successful director of football come into the football club. And whether you like it or not, that will lead us to success. Money plus direction in football equals success. At the moment, we have the money, we just don't have the direction. And we're going to get there. So everyone, please take a breath. It's going to be fine.
I think it'll be all right, but at the moment, yeah, it's dark times. There's not much to see. Let's get into some player ratings quickly. Guys, by the way, to keep smashing those lights, let's get those lights up. Nowhere near enough lights for the amount of people that are tuning in. So please do hit that thumb button. It really helps out. And please do subscribe to the channel as well if you're tuning in now and you're not subscribed. It really helps me out. And yeah, let's get it done. And we're heading towards 2K subscribers. So yeah, every new subscriber helps. So please do click that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Right, mate, let's get into it. We had a change in goal tonight. Edouard Mendy was on the bench. Tuchel saying before the game that he had a bit of patellar, I can't remember what it's called. I think it might be patellinitis, is it? Yeah, basically something wrong with his knee. And he wasn't involved yet. He was
personally don't buy it. I think he was just being left out, but
that's what it was. Patellar tendonitis. But he was kicking balls quite freely in the goalkeeping warm up. But anyway, regardless, he was dropped, left out, whatever you want to call it, and Kepa was in goal. And I think the right decision. I think it's a decision that a lot of Chelsea fans wanted. I don't think there was an awful lot Kepa could do about the goal himself. He made a great save where he tipped that long-range effort onto the crossbar.
I've seen some people say that like he came out of his goal too early, but to be honest, the other guy was one-on-one with him. What was he supposed to do? You know, like
it's very hard. I would say
very, very few goalkeepers in world football would have stopped that goal. And you know, he made an absolutely magnificent save, like you say, where he tipped it onto the bar. So I think ultimately, actually, Kepa had a very good showing.
I don't think he was that bad, mate. I mean, I'd probably say he's a bit above. I'd probably give him a 6. I thought he was pretty decent.
Yeah, I'd give him a 6. I'd be happy with giving him a 6.
I mean, I know this is obviously like very briefly. Do you expect him to stay in goal for Saturday?
No, Mendy will be back, I'm sure.
Yeah, I would agree.
Only because Tuchel really, really likes Mendy, and you know, it's just unless he really is injured, it'll be Mendy again.
Yeah. Mate, moving on to Azpilicueta, I've got to be perfect honest. I love Aspi. The guy's finished. This is an Ivanovic-style decline. How he's suddenly ahead of Chalobah in the pecking order is beyond me. How Tuchel thinks that Azpilicueta is a better choice than Trevor Chalobah is beyond me.
He was very poor today. You know, he was hooked at half-time. It
was awful. He was terrible.
It was not a good performance.
He's basically someone that needs to be on the pitch for me as little as possible. Yeah, you know, you're the captain or whatever, you know, do your bit around the training ground, do your bit around the dressing room, but he should be on the pitch as little as possible because the decline from this guy is massive. He's someone that maybe you can bring on.
The concern with him is his contract is 2 years. It's not 1.
Hopefully there's an opt-out after 1.
With any luck, maybe there'll be a gentleman's agreement for him to. And I don't like talking about a club legend like Aspi like that, but it's very clear to see his place is not on the pitch anymore. You know, he is very much there to help out with Tuchel, you know, and keep the squad cohesive. And
I don't know. I don't know why he's starting ahead of Chalobah. I mean, Chalobah had an opportunity to go out on loan, right, to maybe to one of the Milan clubs or to RB Leipzig or whatnot. Chelsea decided to keep him. Why keep him if you're just going to play a washed Aspi ahead of him? Like it doesn't make it makes no sense.
Maybe he'll play at the weekend
whatsoever.
Maybe Chalobah will play at the weekend. He did play the other week, didn't we?
Well, he
did win. So.
Well, he did play the other week. He played in a 4 against Leicester, and he played, but. Like for me, if Chalobah can't start in games like this and Aspi's still getting picked ahead of him, despite the fact that he's washed up, like it's strange to me. It really is strange. But in terms of Azpilicueta tonight, yeah, dreadful. Hooked at half time. Yeah. Mate, I think for me, probably a 2 out of 10. Dreadful.
I would be generous and give him a 3 or a 4, but only because he only played half the game. You know, like he was not good today.
He can have a 2.5. I thought before the game that Koulibaly was going to start as central centre-back, but we didn't see that. We saw Fofana shifted into the middle. How do you feel he did?
He did shift into the centre, didn't he?
Yeah. Martin Keown saying that, you know, he perhaps should have kept up with Orsic, not realising that Orsic is pretty rapid. I don't think, maybe you could say Fofana could have started a bit deeper so he wasn't giving Orsic too much of a head start. But
yeah, I think the goal was a bit of a lack of communication. And remember, Fofana and Koulibaly playing together in that way.
It's far more on Koulibaly, that goal for me. Like the fact that
he needs to win his header.
If you're challenging for a header that high up the pitch as a defender, you've got to win that.
And it's communication as well, though. If one of you is going like that, the other one's got to come back. And, they were both quite high up the pitch at that point. And, and that's the sort of thing that will iron out in time, the more they play together. Like that's the sort of thing that's going to get better over time. So I'm not that concerned about that. It was just an unfortunate they basically had one chance today and scored it.
How do you think he did today? I mean, for a rating out of 10, I don't think he was that bad. I'd probably say maybe a 6.
I give him a 5. I don't really feel like
Average.
he didn't really do anything. He didn't set the world on fire. At least, Kepa at the very least made a decent save.
Let's go middle. We'll go 5.5. Moving on to Koulibaly, and don't get me wrong, I was really excited when he signed for the club. He did okay against Everton. Played that long ball for the assist to get for the ball to get the penalty for Chilwell, and then against Tottenham he was very good as well. Terrible against Leeds. Mate,
it was really poor against
I think he's struggling a little bit at the moment. Wasn't great when he came back in against Southampton, and he wasn't good tonight either. Doesn't win that header. He's majorly at fault for the goal, and it's going to take him a little bit of time to settle into this team. Obviously, Serie A are very different to the Premier League. He wasn't good tonight, and that early optimism around him is kind of maybe for some people might be fading, but
some people probably have him on fraud watch now.
Yeah, he'll be on fraud watch. Yeah,
I would give him maybe a 4 today. I think yes, he could have done better for the first goal, but other than that, reasonably solid. Did fine. That's really it. He wasn't really in the game that much.
No, he wasn't. I think let's give him a 4. That mistake was terrible. I mean, to be honest, mate, Reece James, fresh off his new 6-year deal, which is great news for the club, but
he was poor today.
He was really poor tonight. I mean, there was one time, I think once or twice he put some good balls into the box, but there was no one
hit
there.
The post, didn't he?
He hit the post with a shot. But
again, I think that's the thing about James is he's always got something in him to do like that. But yeah, he was poor today. By his standards, at the very least, he was poor today.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably he was better than Koulibaly. I'd probably just give him a 4.5 or was he average?
4.5 or a 5, yeah, average game. But that's the thing is Reece James has so many 7, 8, 9, 10 out of 10s that 5 is poor.
Yeah, it's poor for him. Moving to the other side, and then a well-deserved start for Ben Chilwell after his heroics off the bench at the weekend, making a big difference.
I thought he did reasonably well.
He did okay.
I thought he was
offer anything going forward for me.
He did all right. He was unlucky, I think, to just be offside for the Aubameyang's goal. Like the new tech that they're using for that, the sort of the assisted offside.
It was semi-automated, wasn't it?
Yeah, really like that. Big fan of that. The way they're doing that, but like Hawkeye in tennis, it seems to be a lot more accurate. I'm a fan of it. I think Chilwell did all right. I certainly think he probably did about the same as James. I would say about 4 or 5. He did fine. But I think the thing is important to remember, nobody played that well today.
No, we did. I don't think he was he on a. I'd probably say it was a 4. I'd give him actually 4.5, and I'd probably give Reece James change him to a 5. I think James was probably a little bit better than Chilwell.
Yeah, I could see that. It is. Yeah, like you say, nobody's done brilliant today. Right.
Mount. This is going to be a low rating. I think, look, playing deeper is something that I'd like to see Mount do. I've never seen him play in a pivot before. I probably don't really want to see it again after that showing. Maybe it'd be a bit different if he was alongside a Kante or a Jorginho or whatnot. But this, as you touched on earlier, mate, Mount's this season, for whatever reason, has been shocking. Tuchel accusing him of sleeping on the pitch when played first game of the season against Everton. And it's not really got any better since then. It's been woeful. It's 7 games, no goals, no assists.
I wonder if something's going on with him. I really do. I wonder if something's going on with him off the pitch that we don't know about. It seems to be. I don't know if maybe his contract talks are distracting him or something. I don't know.
But he was terrible today, giving the ball away, not running after the ball, just absolutely nothing.
There was a lot of times where it was simple passes being passed either too short, wayward, too hard. It was one of those things where everything went wrong for him today. He gets a 3 for me, I think.
I think he was probably one of the worst players on the pitch for me.
I don't think he was worse than Aspi. I don't think so, but he wasn't
I'd say, given the fact he played the whole game, I'm going to go in level with Aspi because he still had another 45 minutes to try.
I think if Aspi played the whole 90, I think we'd be giving him a 0. But
we'd probably be giving him a 1 or a 2. It's That's for sure. But mate, moving on to Kovacic, I was surprised that he started, given the fact that he's had injury problems, potential surgery on that knee is close or whatever. I didn't. Think
I imagine he really wanted to play.
He probably
today.
really wanted to play today. What did you make of him? I don't think he was that great today, but then again, no one was.
No, like he was fine. Like he didn't do anything amazing, and nobody did right today. But I don't know, got us. Does the thing that he does, where he somehow comes out with the ball with like 6 people around him, but didn't really do anything with it. So I don't know, maybe a 4. You did all right.
He
less
was okay.
Worse than he usually is by a mile, but definitely not the worst player on the pitch. I'd say a 4, 4.5.
I might go a little bit higher. I think he was okay. I might give him a 5.5.
That's fair enough.
I think he was all right. Moving to the front three, things aren't going to get much better here. Havertz, to be fair, I've been majorly critical of Havertz.
I think Havertz was our best forward player today.
Havertz actually did quite well today. In that first 15, 20 minutes, he looked to be reveling in that sort of free role. He looked to be benefiting from having Aubameyang up there. He worked hard. I'd
like to see more of that in the games to come. I really think that first 20 minutes that we had, I know it's bad. We're talking about only 20 minutes in a game. We lost 1-0 to Zagreb, but that 20 minutes I think is really something to build on. I think that hopefully that's what he'll take away from that, is actually he probably really enjoyed playing in that more sort of free role with actually as a second striker with someone like Aubameyang, who's a proper 9 up front. I think he was our best attacking player today. I give him a 6.
Yeah, I think he worked. I mean, this is so poor, like working hard's being praised. It's a bare minimum as a player. But I mean, yeah, look, he was probably one of our he was out of the attackers, he was probably the one that offered the most. And that's not really saying a lot, but I think maybe a 6 could be fair for Havertz, if I'm being honest. I thought to be honest, all right.
He's actually not, I think a lot of people really like to bash Havertz. He's not doing too badly. Over the last couple of games, he's stepped it up a little bit. He scored the winner against West Ham.
Output, though, really.
Yeah.
Is the major thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Moving to the other side, I thought this was one of Sterling's worst games in a Chelsea shirt. I thought it was dreadful tonight.
Had a really poor passing, really poor decision making.
Poor decision making, not taking shots on. You see Sterling against Manchester City, the amount of times he gets the ball on that left-hand side, cuts inside, puts one into the corner and scores it. At Chelsea,
did it for us against Leicester.
But he gets the ball in the same position, and then he's not shooting, but then B, he's trying to take on 1, 2, 3, 4 players, gets past a couple, still doesn't shoot, and then tries to take on more and gives the ball away. This was really, really poor tonight. He just wasn't at it at all. Passing all over the place, as you say, decision-making terrible, not shooting, just offered absolutely nothing.
Yeah, and for a player of his quality, you expect more from him. You say what you want about the other players, but he's on a team that's won 4 out of the 5 last titles, or at Man City. You expect better from
a team that creates a lot of chances as well. We obviously don't create anywhere near as many chances as obviously as City do. So when you miss the chance at Chelsea, when you miss the chances at Chelsea, it's a problem. It really is, because you're not going to get sort of 2, 3, 4 more chances. Sterling at City would have known if I miss a chance, I'm going to get 3 or 4 more chances. If you miss a chance at Chelsea, you might not get another one. Now, you might not get another one, and that's. I give
him a 3 today. I thought definitely his worst game for Chelsea so far.
No, worst game for Chelsea by a mile. I'd think a 3 for Sterling. And you know what? I was excited about Aubameyang starting. Looking back at it, massive mistake for me. I know it's easy to say, but I think it was a mistake to start him. He didn't look fit. He wasn't obviously because of his jaw issue. He wasn't going in for any.
That was the thing for me.
He was going for nothing in the air. He was withholding. He was playing within himself.
Yeah, he was playing within himself, and that's what he was getting himself into good positions, but he wasn't taking risks, and that's easy to understand. I play sport with an injury in my elbow. I really worry about play some football sometimes. I worry about playing in goal because if you go down your elbow, it's always in the back of your mind when you're injured,
isn't it?
It is. It's the sort of thing. I imagine it's even more so for professional athletes. So I wouldn't hold that against him too much. But yeah, it might have been a mistake to start him. But he did get into some good positions. I think it'd be hard to lambast him too much.
Yeah, no, I would agree. But again, for me, look, we only see him play just shy of an hour for Chelsea. Look, he's not going to be judged on this, but just purely on
with
this,
a broken jaw.
Just purely on this, it looked like the wrong decision. When you've got a guy on the pitch that can't give 100% and can't go in for everything, can't go in for headers, can't give his all really, and is holding back, you probably shouldn't have been starting him. Maybe it would have been a game for him to come off the.
At the same time,
But then he did get into good positions.
Yeah, and was unlucky to score, but it was offside.
But again, not shooting. There's a couple of times in the first half where he got played in nicely, and you're thinking, shoot, and he just plays it to Sterling and tries to play it to Sterling instead. I don't know if it's the way we're being coached or what, because no one in attacking position
it's confidence.
Confidence.
I don't know why for Aubameyang, because I'm sure he'd be coming in with lots of confidence. But maybe again, maybe his confidence has dropped a bit because he was attacked a few days ago.
Yeah, so, that's also true.
There's a lot of mitigating factors for Aubameyang, so I'd be willing to give him the benefit of the doubt on this one. He wasn't brilliant, but he got himself into some decent positions. Give him a 4, 5, 4.5, something like that.
I thought he was poor.
I don't think he definitely wasn't as bad as Sterling.
No, it was better than Sterling. Do you know what? 4 for Aubameyang. Mate, are you surprised that Brozier didn't start today? I was really surprised not to see Brozier in this game start, because I thought it would have been a perfect game for him to start.
I actually wasn't surprised. Only because I think we wanted to play through Zagreb today rather than sort of play up to them. I think that's what you could see in the first sort of 20 minutes where we were, the game plan was definitely to play around Zagreb instead of playing up to them and with your back to goal with someone like Brozier does. But when that wasn't working, obviously he came on the pitch. What did you think of his performance?
Mate, I thought it was decent when he came on.
He was all right, wasn't he?
He imposes himself. He's in the right areas. He's a physical presence. He's kind of a penalty box striker. But again, I just think he needs more opportunities. I know he's probably. I think he needs an opportunity to start a game for me. I'd be very surprised if Aubameyang started on Saturday. I really would. I think we need to go. I would go Brozier, Havertz, and Sterling. I just think Oba probably needs a bit more time training and a bit more time to get back into things. I can guarantee that if tonight's game was against Fulham in the league away, Oba wouldn't have started for me. I don't think Tuchel would have started him. I think Tuchel looking at it as a quite a nice game potentially for Aubameyang to go into. But yeah,
I think the thing is, it's about what you need in terms of a game. If you're what Brozier offers is that sort of that physicality and things like that you would expect. And that sort of physical presence. Someone like Aubameyang, again, is the idea is to sort of play around and play on the counter and play, quick balls that he can run onto, and he's a poacher. That's what he does. And so when you've got someone like that, if you're playing someone like Brozier, big physical centre forward against the likes of Fulham, that's exactly what the Fulham centre backs will be used to in the Championship. Is a big physical centre forward who is going to use his body and back into them, and they'll know how to defend against it. That would be the only thing I would say. Whereas someone like Aubameyang they've probably never played against anyone like Aubameyang. Not really. So
no, probably not. I mean,
but you never know. Honestly, at this rate, Mitrovic is going to tear us apart at the weekend.
Well, he's going to. Yeah, I mean, hopefully, obviously Silva will be back. But I mean, yeah, look, it's a poor night tonight. It's been a poor start to the season. Some pretty low scores in there. A few, not many players can come away with their heads held high from tonight. It's difficult times at the moment for Chelsea. It really is. I mean, the good thing is we've got a chance to put it right on Saturday.
Exactly. In a big game is our derby Fulham. It's an important game and it matters to the club. I know people say, well, we always win it or whatever. Well, in the form we're in at the moment, we better win it. Do you know what I mean?
Bank on it.
It's a very, very important game for us to win. There's a lot of history between Chelsea and Fulham, and it's a rivalry that, while it's more one-sided these days, it hasn't always been, and it matters. So it's important to see the players turn up for that. You're muted, Charlie.
Muted. Yeah, no, it does matter. Every game matters now, and for me, it's the problem is we'll probably turn up against Fulham and we might win, because that's generally been the patterns that's occurred this season. Lose, terrible performance, get a win. then you lose the next one. Like that level of consistency. We've got to find something. Look, it's better than losing multiple games in a row, but we can't keep doing this, like being Jekyll and Hyde, just turning up one week, not turning up the next. Like something's got to change. But yeah, look, tonight, not a good night. Seems like a good point to round out. Oli, thank you so much for your time, as always, mate. Guys, make sure you follow Oli on Twitter. I've linked it in the description, and his name's on his screen name as well. So please do give him a follow for some great Chelsea content and some thoughts in general. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Thanks for getting involved in the chat. Really enjoy interacting with you, even if there's a few views in there that I might disagree with. It's always good fun to hear them. But yeah, guys, on your way out, please keep smashing those likes and please do subscribe to the channel as well on your way out. Would really, really appreciate it. It's dark times at Chelsea at the moment, but there will be light at the end of the tunnel. Hopefully things take an upward turn for the Blues, but we've got to keep the faith, back the manager, stick with it, and the good times are coming and the sun will shine on us again. But until then, guys, enjoy the rest of your evening. Take care and up the Chels.